exclusive.
So the question is, how do we infiltrate people with the good news message of the gospel, the kingdom message of the new covenant? How do we infiltrate a system that is entirely designed to shut that down and destroy it? The easiest way that you can do that is by getting them to think for themselves. Because most of what the problem that they're dealing with is the fact that they have been so conditioned in a system that discourages thinking. In a system that discourages thinking. Have literally been discouraged from thinking and asking questions when our minds are designed to think and ask questions. And so one of the most effective questions that I have found to ask people who are still stuck in the system, who are still wrestling with all the old covenant mindsets or even all the legalism stuff, one of the most powerful questions that I found that you can ask is to have the person count or pay attention to how often their pastor or their leader mentions Jesus and what he did. Because when you do that, they're actually thinking, they're engaged. It's like you give them an assignment and they're thinking about it, whether they plan on going to church and thinking about it or not. You've already planted the idea. You've already asked the question, and really, it's not an issue of manipulation at all. It's the Word of God. It's Jesus Christ Himself desperately reaching out to people and saying, "Listen, my sheep hear my voice. The voice of another they will not follow." So essentially, you get them thinking about and focusing on Jesus and what He did, and they're going to start noticing, just like I did, just like you did, just like everybody else that this is happening to has done. They start paying attention, specifically looking for Christ. They're looking for the person of Jesus instead of a theology or a bless me quick thing or whatever. They're looking for Jesus. And Jesus said, if you search for me, you will find me. He said that, that He is the way, the truth, and the life. They're searching for truth, and basically the system is designed to get them to look for everything but Jesus the person. The system is designed to get them looking for everything but Christ. And that is the essence of the Antichrist spirit. It is not so much in the sense of directly opposed to as much as it is in place of Christ. And so whenever you ask that, they'll be like, "Oh, my pastor preaches about Jesus all the time." And then you can ask them, "Really?" And then because if you're making, it's good to make direct statements when you're making a point. But what it really comes down to is you have to get them engaged with you. You have to get them thinking for themselves, because otherwise they just feel like you're talking at them and just trying to tell them that they're wrong. Now, are they wrong? Yes. But that doesn't, obviously the point is not in showing them how wrong they are. The point is in showing them how right Jesus is. And so if you can get them to think, that's really what it boils down to. I mean, Adolf Hitler is quoted as saying, "What luck for dictators that men do not think." I mean, that's scary. Because the reality is that people they're not taught how to think. All we're doing is essentially teaching people how to think, and when you do that, revolution is inevitable. It's slow. It's certainly, I wish it would happen right away. It happens slowly because there's so many bad mindsets that you have to dismantle. There's so many questions that they have to wrestle through on their own. And whenever you just ask questions like, why do we ask a worship leader, why are we singing songs about how hungry and thirsty we are when John 6:35 says we're never hungry and thirsty again when we come to Christ? Well, but no, I'm not picking a fight. I'm just saying, why? When you ask that question, why or how, it's so much different than just asking like specific factual questions. If you're asking what, who, when, that kind of stuff, that's a lot of the stuff that you'll hear from pulpits. It's like, this is what happened at this time, David did this, and Noah did this, and Moses did this, and when they did this, this happened. So it's all just statements of facts that have already happened, but there's the why question is so taboo in church circles because I mean, not even church circles, just situations in general. It's like you start asking why, and you immediately become a threat to the status quo. So, you know, I mean, why do we send our kids to high schools that all the high schools do is prime them to think that they need to go to college so that they can get a job? Why do we do that? Why don't we teach them practical life skills on how to balance their checkbook, how to start a business? See, that's the thing. Our school systems are designed not to create entrepreneurs and leaders. Our school system is designed to create employees. And that's why our society is where it is. Because you don't see the dudes who are running Wendy's and McDonald's and Burger King and you know, Microsoft and Apple. You don't see these dudes hurting for nothing. Why? Because they're entrepreneurs, they're leaders. They came out of the system that was designed to create sheep and followers. And it's the same system that's going on in the church today, because they're not teaching people how to be kingdom-minded. They're not teaching people how to transform cities and how to be leaders in their sphere of influence and how to love on people. They're not teaching people how, because they're discouraging people from asking why. Because when you ask why, inevitably they'll have to answer the how question. And so whenever you ask, how do we influence the system? How do we influence, not the system, I'm not interested in influencing the system. I want the system to come down. I mean, I'll tell people point blank, and it gets me in trouble sometimes, but it's like, look, I'm not interested in seeing this quote, prayer movement thing get influenced with the gospel. I want the thing to come down, period. It's like, because what they're perpetuating, you cannot mix oil and water. You cannot mix the new covenant with old covenant practices. The reality is what they are doing is a direct reflection of an old covenant practice and a principle that does not apply to us as believers. It's all based on Joel 2 and very loosely based on Acts chapter 1, where it's like, go tarry in the city of Jerusalem until you're endued with power from on high. I love how Reinhard Bonnke says there's no evidence of them returning to the upper room after they were receiving the Holy Ghost. There's no evidence of that. And so we have been spoon-fed these systems and these mindsets that we have to do all of these things to try and get what we've already been given through the cross of Christ. And that in itself is anti-Christ. So when you're asking how do we influence the system, keep it in mind that the goal is not to influence the system. The goal is to influence the people who are in the system, because they are in bondage the same way that the Israelites were in bondage in Egypt, because they were in the same kind of system. They didn't know why they were making bricks. They were making bricks because they had been told, this is what you do. You are here to make bricks. That is your identity. Your identity is based entirely on what you do and what you can produce. And therefore, you have no identity. Your identity has been dictated to you from a dictator who is solely bent on himself and succeeding in financial arenas and having personal pleasures for himself. He's not in it for you. That's the difference between real kingdom-minded leaders and entrepreneurs and people who are running these demonic church structure systems. Not that the people are demonic or evil, they have good intentions, you just don't know any better. But the difference is true kingdom-minded leaders function from a mindset of, how can I serve you to make you better and succeed in what you're passionate about? How can I exalt Christ and point you to Christ in your life so that you get your identity out of Him and not out of what you're doing? And therefore, because you get your identity out of Him instead of what you're doing, you actually have a solid foundation for your identity. So whenever there's up and downs in life, you don't backpedal, you don't get all freaked out, because you have a solid foundation in Him, and therefore your actions are a direct reflection on who you are, as opposed to your actions trying to obtain an identity. And so the goal is get people to think and look for Christ. Get them to look for Jesus in a message. Get them to look for Jesus in a sermon. Is it all about Moses or Joshua or David or all these Old Testament prophets and all these different things? I mean, it's amazing to me, from when I used to work at a Christian bookstore, how many people would come in and they would tell me that they're doing all these 12 or
15-week Bible studies at their church on the book of Isaiah or the book of Jeremiah or the book of Daniel and, you know, all this other stuff. There's no practical application. It's all theory. It's all just super spiritual stuff that puffs people up with knowledge instead of equipping them with actual education and knowledge that will empower them to move forward and change the world around them. And so what happens is they go into these church services after you've already asked the question, after you get them thinking, okay, where's Jesus in this sermon? I'm just going to pay attention, and they'll do it subconsciously. There are some people who will do it consciously, and most people will do it unconsciously, because they, a lot of times, will just think you're crazy for even asking the question in the first place. But whenever they're sitting there and they're hearing this stuff, because you turned the light on and then walked away, they're sitting there because Christ has been illuminated in their mind. And they're going to be analyzing, oh my gosh, Pastor only mentioned Jesus at the end of the service whenever he said in Jesus' name, at the end of some prayer. Or Pastor only mentioned Jesus at the end of the service whenever he said, now if you're here today within the sound of my voice, you know, with every head bowed and every eye closed, you need to admit that you're a sinner and you need Jesus in your life. You know, he'll come into your heart, you know, but when you sin, make sure you confess your sin so that he can forgive you. All this stupid stuff. And they'll realize that it's the only time that Pastor so-and-so mentioned Jesus, or any time leader, conference speaker so-and-so mentioned Jesus, and what he did was as a side note instead of the all-consuming, all-encompassing foundation of our faith that he is. And when that happens, that is what you call a revelation of Jesus Christ. And when you have a revelation of Jesus Christ, everything else falls into place. Make sense? Good. And when you do that, revolution is inevitable. Revolution is inevitable.